a view switcher widget, as the name suggests, is used to switch between two views. That is, you will have two views created and you will be like switching from one view to another view. It can be used to change the layout of your Android application within the same activity. That is, you are going to create a one activity. Within the activity, if you want to have something like number of pages getting changed, so that kind of an effect, if you want in a single view, you can use this view switcher control, which will be very flexible to switch between the views. You can create views of a view switcher widget either using a factory or by adding them on your own. That is, either you can do it dynamically or you can do it by XML code. I'll just show you the way how we can do it through the XML code. So what I'm going to do is, I'll just change this linear layout to a view switcher. I'll remove all these things. Only this much I'll be like having, I'll be like also removing these two things. Okay, so I have created a view switcher control. Inside this, now what I am going to do is, I am going to create two views. That is two main views. One is, I'll call it as relative layout. I'll give it as fill parent. Okay, I'll give it as match parent. Sorry. Match parent. Now what I'll do is I'll give a background color to it. Then inside the relative layout, what I'm going to do, I'll create a text view. First, I'll create a text view. And I'll give an what I'll do is I'll create a text view. And I'll give a text to it. Like for example, I'll give a text saying first view. Okay. Then I'll give a text color to it. As white. Okay, now I have given it as white. Next, what I am going to do is I'll create a button saying the button should navigate to the next view. So I'll just create a button. I'll give it as wrap content. Then I'll create an ID for it. I'll give a name to it. That is, I'll give a text to it. That's it. Now I'll create another view which is something similar to this itself. But what I'm going to do is I'll change the background color of it. I'll change the background color to yellow. Then what I'll do is I'll make this text to second view. I'll make this as previous. Okay. So I'll change this view to Okay, that's all. So I have created two views. First view is the first view, which is having a text view and a button. And the second view is the second view, which is having a text view and a button. So now what we are going to do is we are going to toggle between, that is we are going to switch between the two views that we have created. So to switch between the two views, we have to create the view switcher. Before that, we have to have the ID for the view switcher, saying views switcher. Now we'll go to the program. I'll just remove all the codes what we have written it for the previous one. Now what I'll do is I'll just create a view switcher saying switch views. I'll create a reference of it. Saying find view by ID dot, then I'll give the view switcher to it. Then I'll go into this. Now we have created the reference of this one. We have two buttons, like one is next and one is previous. So we'll create a reference of it. I'll just create a reference to the next button. And I'll create a reference to the previous button. Now I'll write a listener, because once you click on the next button, it has to go to the second view. Once you click on the previous button, it should come to the first view. So I'll write a listener to it. Set on click listener is the listener that we have to write for a button, which will give you an overridden method called on click. Inside this, now what we are going to do is we are going to create an animation like slider. So we have a class called as animation utils. Now using the switcher control, you can switch or you can set the animation to it. We'll first set the animation, like set animation utils dot make animation of. You have to pass the context, that is what is your base context or something like that. I'll pass the base context and the animation to be like applied. Now in the switcher we have a function called as switch next. Sorry, it's show next, it is not switch next. Show next means it will go to the next view, that is inside the switcher whatever number of views you create, everything is considered as a separate view. So now we have two views, first view, second view. So if you click on show next, when the method show next is executed, it will go to the second view. In the similar way, we'll create a listener for the previous button. And I'm just going to use the same code, but instead of show next, I am going to use show previous. So now everything is done. Two views, now we can switch to the two views very easily. So we should arrange this linear layout, otherwise it will be like overlapping on each other. So I'll just create an ID and I'll give it as T1, which will be used here as T1. In the similar way, Android colon ID at ID T2, and I'll give it as Android colon layout below T2. Now what I'll do is I'll run it. So I'll just show the application. See, you can see that first name is shown. Then we have a next button. If I click on the next button, it will go to the next and you can see the animation to it. Actually, you are not able to see it properly because it is taking a bit of time to show it on the screen, whatever it is there. So this is how it will work. It'll have an animation like it will push the screen and the next screen will come. That is how it will work. So if you click on previous, now the next screen will come. So it is now to implement this kind of a feature without the view switcher, we have to create multiple screens. Suppose, for example, you add a view, you would have seen in your gallery, that is in your device, you have a gallery where you have many number of images. So if you have 200 images, then you should have created 200 activities where you can slide and you can see the next images. Suppose if we use this, they have used this concept called as view switcher. So if you have used a view switcher in a single activity, n number of images can be used. To do that, dynamically what you have to do is, first you have to fetch all the images from your drive. Then depending upon the number of images, dynamically you have to generate the views. That is, you have to create the views dynamically. You should not create it the way what I showed you. This is for your understanding purpose I am showing you. You should not create it in the XML. Only you have to create a view switcher in the XML, but the relative layouts or the views, whatever be created inside the view switcher, you should not create it. You should create it dynamically. Once you create it dynamically, and if you attach the images to that view, the image slider, you can see it like whatever you are seeing in the gallery in your device. That is how you have to implement. So this is the purpose of a view switcher control to be like used. If you want to add a view dynamically, say as I told you, if you want to add a view dynamically, this is the method that you have to use, add view. So if you use this method by passing what kind of a view you are adding it, you can generate the views dynamically. Then get accessibility class name is to get the class name. Get next view, you can get what is the next view. Reset is to reset the view. Set factory is nothing but you can use this method to the view switcher in the way how it has to work. So that is the purpose of set factory method. So if you go into the palette, you can see the view switcher in the expert at the bottom. Then the XML code, as I told you, inside the view switcher, whatever you create the view, it is considered as each and every view is considered as a single view. To reference in the Java file, you can use find view by ID method. You can use show next method and show previous method to go to the next and as well as the previous views.